Great Voyage. Top Shikai Ryujin Jaka Reigns. Chapter 41. Akainu, last time you didn't seem to enjoy yourself very much, this time, I'll let you play to your heart's content. Looking at Akainu below, Di Luo said lightly. After all, Di Luo directly raised the Tiank in his hand, and said lightly, Dragon Flame Slash. Following Di Luo, he swung his sword. Swipe. A slash fell. Boom. As he slashed out with a sword, the powerful flames entwined on the sky tower instantly ran away, and the flames billowed. Just in an instant, the huge flames turned into a huge fire dragon. Roar. The fire dragon roared and swept towards Akainu. The terrifying temperature and the burning void were a little distorted. This time, as soon as the fire dragon appeared, it directly turned into a giant fire dragon over 100 meters long. Its temperature was so high that it roasted the surrounding marine warships red in an instant. These iron warships are powerless in front of the fire dragon. It's on fire. A marine warship instantly burst into flames. A naval headquarters vice admiral stood at the bow and shouted, "The temperature of the hull is too high. No, I can't stay on the boat anymore." Ah! Marine was directly surrounded by the terrifying temperature, and then scorched. This fire dragon is simply a walking sun, carrying a terrifying temperature. Wherever it passes, everything that can be burned is burned. Jump into the sea. The Marine Vice Admiral shouted decisively. Plop plop. The surrounding warships that were too close to the fire dragon were all burnt red, and the Marines on them couldn't stay for a moment, and jumped into the sea one after another like dumplings. Ah! Ah! However, after jumping into the sea, they soon discovered that the sea water was as if it had boiled, and they jumped like this, no different from soup pigs. The surrounding sea was filled with screams. Roar. The fire dragon roared and swept over. After connecting to the surface of the sea water made a sizzling sound, continuously evaporating a large amount of white mist. Gululu. Gululu. Even, some of the sea was directly boiled and boiled up. In just one round, a large number of Marines were lost. Akainu rushed towards the fire dragon angrily, and raised his hand as a move of great eruption. And the fire dragon turned back and breathed out a mouthful of flames. Boom. The two flames collided, and there was a loud noise. The next moment, Akainu's great eruption flame was completely swallowed by the fire dragon's flame. When the flames collided, Akainu lost again. Compared with Ryujin Jaka's flame, his magma fire is still far behind. Pirate. Akainu looked at Di Luo. He really wanted to solve the perpetrator. However, the fire dragon seems to be staring at him, like a tarsal maggot. As long as Akainu moves, the fire dragon will entangle him. The fire dragon, exuding a terrifying temperature, even for him, felt a little too much. Ah! As the fire dragon opened its mouth wide, terrifying flames swept past. Even Akainu had to avoid the sharp edge temporarily. The flame temperature of this fire dragon is really too high. And Akainu's all-out attack couldn't hurt the fire dragon at all, but the fire dragon kept devouring his flame power to grow stronger. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Holding the flame sword in his hand, Di Luo looked at the fire dragon that was fighting with Akainu. Here, he doesn't need to make a move for the time being. This fire dragon is enough for him to drink a pot. Then, Di Luo looked at the huge battleship on the sea. Wow! He raised one hand slowly. Buzz. The next moment, the metal manipulation ability was activated, and an invisible force expanded. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. In an instant, as long as it was within the range of Di Luo's ability, one after another marine warships were continuously launched into the sky. Ah! Plop plop. The Marines in the warship were all poured out like beans poured from a bamboo tube, and fell into the sea water. Clatter. All the warships rose to midair. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. With Di Luo's sudden pinch, the marine warships in the sky began to twist, deform, and then turned into huge iron balls. Then, Di Luo raised his hand with a wave. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Above the sky, the huge iron ball roared and smashed towards other warships at sea. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, in the sea area under Di Luo's feet, a figure jumped out of the water, and attacked Di Luo very quickly. Ah! Di Luo sneered, "Is this your backhand?" Boom. In an instant, the terrifying conqueror's haki mixed with the amazing Reiatsu fell on him. Boom boom boom. Clatter. In an instant, the entire sea surface began to twist crazily, and a violent tsunami began to wreak havoc. At Di Luo's feet, a deep trench opened up in the sea, and the sea flowed towards both sides. Occasionally, a sea king's would appear, and it would be cut open in an instant, and burned to the bone slag. However, those figures were very powerful. Under such a huge pressure, although it was difficult to get close to Di Luo, they started to attack. One of them raised his hand to Di Luo. Buzz. For a moment, Di Luo felt that his actions seemed to have become extremely slow, as if it was difficult to even take a step. A demon-capable user. Di Luo looked at the figure below. Below, 3 people appeared, all 3 of them were guys wearing black suits, ties, and sunglasses. One of them was a tall woman with short blue hair and red sunglasses. She was the one who just used a strange ability on herself to slow her down. At this moment, she is still using her ability on herself. Ants. Di Luo snorted coldly. Swipe. Twisting the sky in his hand, Di Luo said lightly, the city of hell. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. In an instant, flames rose continuously on the entire surface of the sea, and pillars of flame rose wildly. Less than 10 seconds before and after, with Di Luo as the center, thousands of meters around, all were covered in flames, pillars of flames erupted one after another, and terrifying flames raged. From a distance, it looks like a huge fireball. Boom. Being in the fireball. With a twist of Di Luo's body, he directly dissipated the energy that restricted him. Down below, the terrifying flames began to raging unceasingly, turning into human-shaped flame weapons, chasing and intercepting those people as if consciously. They're fast, but the flames are even faster. They wanted to escape, but they couldn't escape at all. The sky and the sea were all covered by this terrifying flame. The flames formed a huge ball. They have no escape, only fight. Those few people just persisted for a moment, before they were caught up by the flames, and they were burnt before they even had time to scream. Then fell into the hell of fire, touched the flames, was ignited, and then burned to pieces. For Di Luo, their so-called strong is not enough. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. The flames swept wildly, and at this moment, the entire sea sponge boiled up. Facing Di Luo, Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral attacked him one after another. Swipe. Di Luo waved his hand, and a wave of fire swept over, and several vice admirals who rushed forward were shot down directly. Even weaker ones were instantly killed. The vice admiral level, under Di Luo's command, has no resistance at all. As for the ordinary marine, they are more like delivering food. The fire wave swept across and killed a large area of marine in an instant. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. On the sea. Flames spread out one after another, and the escaped marines, once infected, would be burned to slag in an instant. However, even if they are not swept by the fire wave, they have no possibility of escaping. Because, this sea was boiled by Di Luo, and the water surface was constantly boiling. Even the monsters in the depths of the ocean didn't dare to raise their heads, unable to bear the terrifying temperature at all, they all rushed to swim towards the depths of the seabed one by one. Even so, on the surface of the sea, the corpses of sea kings continued to surface, with their stomachs facing upwards. There was a burst of aroma, this is the smell of sea kings being cooked. The extremely hot hell exudes a terrifying temperature, and no one can stop it at all. One after another, the steel warships melted into the sea. The so-called Buster Call, if it only has this level, then don't be ashamed of it. Di Luo, who was standing on the iron sword floating in midair, spoke, and then waved his hand, a powerful ability erupted. Boom. Boom. In the sky, the huge iron balls condensed by Di Luo before hit 393, and fell in all directions. Every time they fell, they could destroy a battleship. This is completely beyond the power that ordinary people can bear. Hundreds of marine warships were destroyed in just a moment, and marines suffered heavy casualties. Akainu was forced back again and again by the huge fire dragon. The fire dragon mixed with Di Luo's armed color directly made Akainu vomit blood. This is not the end. I saw that Di Luo raised his hand, and 5 started again. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. On the surface of the sea, all the wreckage of the destroyed warship was mobilized by Di Luo's ability. Boom boom boom. One after another, the remnants of marine battleships collided together, and then reorganized, directly condensing into a giant steel giant with a huge lower body and a humanoid upper body, more than 100 meters long. Go! With a wave of Di Luo's hand, the steel giant, holding a huge steel mace, began to sail on the sea under the control of Di Luo's thoughts, attacking the marine on the sea frantically. Every time the hammer falls, a huge wave can be smashed on the sea. There's Marine Vice Admiral rushing up to attack the Iron Giant, but it's useless to stop it. Ah! Ah! For a time, screams filled the entire sea. Afterwards, Akainu saw that something was wrong, so he threw off the fire dragon and ran away alone. They totally underestimated the power of Di Luo. In their view, although Di Luo is strong, he is not invulnerable, and there is always a way to deal with it. Their original plan was to pay the celestial dragons, and to find out what happened to Di Luo. This time, even if they couldn't catch him, they would make him suffer. But, in fact, they were completely wrong. Di Luo is really too strong. At this level, it is impossible to teach him a lesson. The ability to use fire and manipulate metal completely exceeded Marine's predictions. They still need to investigate what kind of ability it is. In the distance, Akainu stood on a broken warship and stared at Di Luo. He didn't speak. This time, there were mostly temptations, but now, this goal has been achieved. It's just a pity that those few CPO members of the secret organization of celestial dragons are actually very strong, and it is not a problem to deal with ordinary powerful pirates. Unfortunately, they met Di Luo, the monster of monsters. Di Luo, no matter how strong you are, if it's only this level, the world government can still deal with you. Just keep jumping off, it's best to get carried away and piss off those people, then you'll know what despair is. Do you really think that the celestial dragons are sitting there for nothing? Akainu sneered. His goal has been achieved, and that is enough. As for the marine who died on this trip, for the sake of justice, he will inevitably make some sacrifices, and he will remember these sacrifices. Then, Akainu turned around and walked away without looking back. Roar! The fire dragon roared in the direction Akainu left, and did not pursue it. Although the fire dragon has self-awareness, it is Di Luo's power after all, and it cannot be too far away from Di Luo. Once it exceeds a certain distance, it will dissipate, so it cannot continue to chase. With this trip, it is said that Akainu, the strongest fighter, has escaped. The remaining Marine Vice Admiral and normal Marine are simply vulnerable. Soon, there will only be pieces of mess left on the sea surface. The broken hull and Marine's body are floating everywhere. Ding! Marine XXX is extremely afraid of you, you get 1% reputation. Ding! Marine XXX has become extremely desperate for you, and you have gained 1.05% reputation. Ding! Marine XXX is extremely afraid of you, you get 0.75% reputation. At this moment, Di Luo, who is in the sky, is just standing there, his system interface is already in a crazy screen swiping mode. This time, Marine dispatched hundreds of Marine warships, tens of thousands of Marines, including countless rear admirals, several vice admirals. But, such a huge force. In front of Di Luo, he was like paper, easily defeated by him. Next, it was time for him to reap his reputation. Marines, even the weakest normal Marines, can provide good reputation points, which is quite good. After this battle, seeing Di Luo's terrifying marine has directly become a source of prestige. Di Luo's reputation value once again broke through the 1000 mark. He can evolve his own ability again. Although, he would have been able to unlock more abilities with the Shikai early on. However, Di Luo is well aware of the fact that miscellaneous but not refined. He feels that the ability to learn does not need to be too much, it only needs to be good enough. With enough power, only one kind is needed to break all spells. If you learn too much, it will be a bit of a hindrance. Therefore, Di Luo still had reputation points left, and he didn't rush to acquire new abilities. He wanted to accumulate reputation points and continue to strengthen his existing abilities. Anyway, he is strong enough now. Ding! Your prestige exceeds 1000% and you can unlock your current ability at a higher level. Just when the reputation value broke through 1000 again, such a voice came again in Di Luo's mind. Do you want to unlock the second stage ability again? Di Luo whispered that he now has two options, the second stage to unlock wood style or magnetic manipulation. After a little hesitation, Di Luo made a decision. System. Unlock the second stage ability of magnetic manipulation for me. At this point, Di Luo directly summoned the system without any hesitation and ordered. His idea of unlocking magnetic manipulation in the second stage is actually very simple. Now he, apart from Ryujin Jaka, uses magnetic manipulation the most, and even sometimes, magnetic manipulation is more convenient. After all, magnetic manipulation does not need to liberate Tianq, it can be used anytime, anywhere. Moreover, for him, this ability is really easy to use. In this world, there is never a shortage of metal and steel, and the ability is quite convenient to use. As for Conqueror's Haki, he already has the top Conqueror's Haki now, so don't worry about the second stage. After Di Luo gave the order. Ding. Host consumes 1000% of the reputation points to perform the magnetic manipulation second stage ability grant. Following the sound of the prompt, the system directly erased Di Luo's reputation points, and then started a new ability area. Di Luo stood on the iron sword, above the sky, waiting quietly. In about 3 minutes. Ding. Congratulations to the host. Magnetic manipulation, the second stage ability, Iron Giant Soldier, Iron Recovery, has been given. From then on, you can perform Iron Recovery on the metal you selected at any time, and your metal manipulation, from the original 10,000 meters to 100,000 meters. Hoo-hoo. The next moment, a tyrannical energy spread out from Di Luo's body, and he felt that his wet body was filled with an indescribable ability. Soon, the usefulness of this ability came to his mind. Iron Giant Soldier, the ability of Iron Recovery has been known to him. It turns out that the so-called recovery of iron means that he can use his ability to continuously compress metal, refine the purest steel, and then create special steel giants. After using the second stage ability, the recovery of iron awakens it and gives it consciousness. The awakened iron giants have self-awareness and can fight independently, and they will do whatever it takes to complete his orders. Is this the second stage ability of magnetic manipulation? Well, let me try to see how powerful it is. Di Luo thought in his heart, his expression changed, and he looked at the steel giant that he had just temporarily made not far away. Steel Giant Soldier. Then, launch the ability directly at it. Boom boom boom. The next moment, the steel giant began to twist continuously, and soon, it was directly compressed into an iron ball, and layers of impurities continued to peel off. Wow. Beep. Wow. At the same time, all the warship metal in the sea was absorbed. Hundreds of warships and hundreds of tons of metal were all sucked in, and then frantically condensed and collided continuously. In a short while, a huge conceited goal was formed. Afterwards, the iron ball began to compress, continuously condensed, and became smaller, stripping away all impurities, leaving only the purest metal. In less than 3 minutes, this iron ball condensed with hundreds of tons of metal was directly compressed into a steel cylinder about 30 meters high and 10 meters in diameter. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. Immediately afterwards, the steel cylinder began to twist and change continuously. Soon, this steel cylinder turned into a huge steel giant. This is a steel giant with silvery metallic luster all over its body. It looks like a living giant being poured with silver molten iron, it looks exactly like a human. In the hand of this giant steel soldier, he held a huge iron sword. Immediately afterwards, Di Luo raised his hand. Aim at this. The iron giant activated the second stage ability of magnetic manipulation, and said, the recovery of iron. Buzz buzz. Buzz buzz. Buzz buzz. Circle after circle of ripples appeared on the entire steel giant. Crack. The next moment, the huge steel giant seemed to open its eyes. Crack. Crack. Immediately afterwards, the steel giant moved, and he half-kneeled directly towards Di Luo, leaning on an iron sword in his hand. Looking at this huge steel giant, Di Luo could sense that he had a subtle connection with it. Looking at him, Di Luo raised his hand. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. A set of metal armor was created directly on his body surface, covering him. Actually, Di Luo's second stage ability, and a hidden ability. That is, now, not only can he control metal, but he can also create metal out of thin air, although the amount of production is not very large, and the speed is not too fast. But, he can actually make metal. This is quite powerful. Looking at this majestic steel giant, Di Luo said flatly, "Well, you are the first steel giant I made, and I named you myself. From now on, you will be called Optimus Prime, this name suits you very well. Go, Optimus Prime, and wipe out all the living people on the surface of the sea." Di Luo said coldly, without showing any mercy. "Since you attack him, you are declaring war on him. Di Luo has never been merciless when dealing with enemies. Ka ka ka." Then, the gigantic steel giant stood up. The next moment he turned around directly, rushed towards the sea, and slashed out with the épée in his hand. A powerful sword energy pierced through the air, directly leaving a deep trench on the sea surface. Just one hit, and the Emperor's marine was fired. Next, it's big again Kamui. Di Luo was a little surprised. He originally thought that this guy's ability was brute force. But in fact, this guy is quite astonishing, or in other words, this guy has inherited part of his abilities. Not only can it fly in the air, raise its hand and slash with powerful sword energy, even the épée is covered with a layer of extremely high temperature flames. Wherever the slash passed, the surrounding air was burned and distorted. So it's like this, I said, the second stage of Ryujin Jaka has the ability to destroy the world. The second stage of magnetic manipulation will not just create conscious steel giant soldiers. It turns out that the giant soldier created by my ability can still inherit part of my ability, and it has no effect on me, tisk tisk, not bad. Di Luo is now very satisfied with this ability. The only pity is that the ability of iron recovery has a cooling time. One day, only one steel giant can have self-awareness. But he is not in a hurry, just make it slowly. In the future, he will have plenty of time to produce a large number of these giant steel soldiers. Hey, everyone, have you all seen it? Our captain, is he so powerful? In the distance, on the bow of Di Luo's huge battleship Tianmen, several people lined up side by side, watching from afar. They are the 4 crew members recruited by Di Luo along the way. Hawkeye, Empress, Pig, Sophia. Among them, Pig looked into the distance. Di Luo stood proudly on the surface of a sea of flames. Beside him, a huge flame dragon was roaring and flying. The entire surface of the sea seemed to be on fire. The fire waves are sweeping, and the air is full of dry smell. Although the distance was far away, he still felt a warm burning sensation. At this moment, he couldn't help but swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and said, once again, he really felt Di Luo's strength. Hawkeye nodded, folded his hands, faced the sea breeze, felt the burning sensation, and said with a serious face. Well, I saw his ability with my own eyes when I was on the top, so I'm mentally prepared at this moment. As for the strength of Captain Di Luo, I think I have a general understanding of it. However, judging from his current performance, when he was at the top, he still had some reservations. This strength is really too strong. I am not sure whether the other current sea emperors can compete with Captain Di Luo. Hey hey. Pig's whole body trembled uncontrollably, and he let out a series of strange laughs. He looked into the distance, grasped the iron railing on the bow with both hands, and said, "Too strong, this kind of man is the one I want to follow. He is strong, confident, and has the aura to crush everything. Following him, maybe I can really see a wider world. Even if it's one piece, I think our captain can still submit." Hawkeye nodded slightly, and said, "Your idea is not wrong. His stature is indeed far superior to ours. There are few other sea emperors who can match him. In the future, he may really be able to go so far, even higher. Now, I also want to see how far he can go." Hey. Piggy lowered his head, looked at Hawkeye, and said, "I believe that our captain is really amazing for you to make such an evaluation. Is this his strength?" Sophia looked at the distance, and single-handedly challenged hundreds of warships, and the warship led by Admiral. Repel them all, even kill them. Also, it doesn't look like much effort. At this moment, her heart was filled with waves. Up to now, she has fully believed that Di Luo can really complete her work, even, it won't be too difficult. She clenched her fists tightly and stared at the distance with burning eyes. It turned out that before Di Luo fought with her, it was just for fun. Fortunately, she still thought that as long as she kept practicing, one day she would be able to keep up with him. Now it seems that I am too naive, who is so far away from her. As for the Empress, she didn't say a word, she stared at the distance tightly, and tightly grasped the bones of the fingers of the iron railing, which turned white. He may really be able to bring changes to this world. On the other side, Jie Wei's face was pale, and it was the aftermath of this energy that made him feel deeply hopeless. Is this the man they once wanted to step on? It's ridiculous, Soroha, he really didn't die in vain. After all, he was looking for death. The man who forced Sengoku to compromise, how could he be an ordinary person? It didn't take long for Di Luo to completely clean up the battlefield on the sea. This time, of all the Marines involved in the siege, except for Akainu who ran away quickly, none of them survived. Looking at the boiling sea. The battle is over. Brush. Di Luo waved the sky tower in his hand. Catch. Filled left pointing pointer. TNK returned to the scabbard again. At the same time, all the flames between heaven and earth disappeared, and the terrifying temperature finally dissipated. Gone. Then, stepping on the iron sword, he flew towards the position of his battleship. Boom. Behind him, the huge steel giant Optimus Prime followed him, flying in the air. Hoo hoo. Hoo hoo. Facing the howling sea wind. Soon, Di Luo returned to the battleship again. After landing, the huge iron sword automatically leaned to one side and stood on the railing. Then, he waved his hand and said to the steel giant behind him, "Go to the ship and wait for orders." Bump. The iron giant landed on the deck, then turned around, moved to a corner of the battleship that did not block the way, stood there, rested the giant sword on the ground, pressed his hands on the hilt, lowered his head, and slowly closed his eyes. Captain. Captain. As Di Luo landed, 4 of his crew members walked over immediately. Among them, Pig looked at Di Luo and said excitedly, "Is this your real power? It's too strong. I thought you would be very strong, but I didn't expect you to be so strong." Surprise. Di Luo looked at Pig and smiled slightly, holding Tiong's sword hilt, and said, "There is no need to make a fuss, where is this? If this level makes you excited to this point, then in the future, you will probably scared to death." Although Di Luo's words may seem pretentious, in fact, what he said is the truth. If he activates Ryujin Jaka Bankai, once he unleashes the power of the remnant sword, what kind of scene will it be? The whole world, nowhere else can bear. And now, the reason why Di Luo is mercilessly beheading his enemies is for Bankai's remnant sword in the future. Hearing Di Luo's words, Pig was surprised and said, "Captain, what do you mean? Even if this is the case, isn't it all your strength?" Di Luo glanced at him and said indifferently, "You will get the answer to this question in the future. It doesn't make any sense for me to say it." Ha ha ha, that's good, Captain, then I'll just wait and see. Pig didn't ask any further questions, but laughed. 0.013207303 Filu 113,271,461. Then, he looked at the huge steel giant soldier in the distance, and said, "Captain, you also made that iron giant. You can manipulate metal, I know. However, this steel giant seems to be different. As a mechanic, my intuition tells me. This giant seems to have special abilities, it is not just a dead thing." Di Luo nodded, thinking that you guys are really accurate. It seems that I found the right person, this guy is really talented in certain things. Maybe, he can really transform this battleship to a truly perfect state in the future, instead of being just a shell like it is now. So, Di Luo didn't hide anything, and said directly. "That's right, it was created by my ability, if there is a battle, it will naturally be dispatched. Could it be that it has self-awareness?" Pig said in surprise that he knew this giant was unusual, but he hadn't thought of this step. Di Luo said with a smile, "Well, anyway, I can make it fight on its own. It doesn't need to be manipulated by my mind all the time. Empowering dead objects with consciousness, isn't that similar to Bigmom's soul fruit ability?" Pig was surprised, this is too amazing, isn't it? Different. Di Luo shook his head, his iron giant soldier is really different from the Homies, that Big Mom made from soul fruit. Although the steel giant has self-awareness and can fight on his own, he will absolutely obey him, the master who made him. Not as careful as, homies. There will be no betrayal. Pig took a deep breath and saw the captain's terror again. Captain. Hawkeye with a black knife on his back looked at Di Luo, nodded first, and then said, will Marines still come to attack us? Di Luo shook his head and said, I don't know, but it probably won't happen for the time being. They have suffered such a big loss. Next time, they are not sure. I don't think they will trouble me anymore. Let's do what we do now. What to do? Understood. Hawkeye nodded. Ha ha ha. Pig laughed loudly when he heard this, and said to Di Luo with his hands gearing up. Captain, if Marine strikes again, you can't let me watch the show. Before, if it wasn't for your order, I would have wanted to go to battle. How can there be a reason why the captain of the pirate group fights while the crew watch on the sidelines? This is outrageous. At any time, the captain is the last card in the hole. Next time, if there is another battle, let me be the first. After all, you are our trump card, and since you are the trump card, you should keep it for the last one. Oh. Di Luo glanced at him and smiled faintly, Piggy, I have some reason. Moreover, these words are also very useful to him. Indeed, as the owner of a ship, if he recruits these powerful crew members just to help him guard the ship, then their value will be very small. His purpose of recruiting them is not here. Moreover, this guy, Pig, still looks like a fighting madman. But yes, this guy has the name of a big pirate. Big pirate, you didn't say this with your mouth, but with your own fists. You have a point. Di Luo nodded, and then said, since you have this plan, then next time you fight, you will be the vanguard. Hey, never let the captain down. Pig laughed, following such a powerful Di Luo, now his heart is full of confidence. In the past, he was the captain, and he was also the whole card. At that time, he had to take care of everything, and his former crew members were not very strong, so every time he fought, he was under a lot of pressure. When fighting, I can't let go, because I have scruples. It's different now, the person who is in the bottom line is not him, but his captain, the new emperor of the sea, Di Luo. An unbelievably strong man, L. In future battles, he no longer has to worry about it, and can fight boldly with confidence. Captain. Thank you for your hard work. Sophia looked at Di Luo with a complicated expression. But soon, she adjusted, looked at Di Luo and smiled, what do you want for dinner? Grilled meat, good wine. Di Luo laughed. Okay. Then I'll get ready. Sophia smiled, then turned around and walked towards her bar. Hey, Sophia, put more spice in the barbecue. Pig looked at Sophia's back and shouted. Sophia didn't look back, but just waved her hands. In the end, the Empress just nodded slightly at Di Luo, then turned and left. Di Luo just smiled lightly, he knew that the Empress had a heart-to-heart, so he didn't say much. As for Jie Wei, he shrank to the side, not daring to say a word. Explain. The longer he stays, the more he can understand the horror of Di Luo. Compared with other people on board, he is really not big enough to bear the pressure brought by Di Luo at all. The battleship continued sailing. After a few days. Oh, I see, is that the country of Stanwell? I have heard of this country before, but I have never seen it. On the bow, the tall pig looked forward with a telescope, and on the sea level in the distance, the outline of an island appeared, he said excitedly. He already knew that on this island, there was a small country. In this country, there was a man his captain wanted to take, a sailor Poseidon of great excellence. Hey, Captain, that place looks very good, it feels like a resort to Haojiao, why don't we play for a few more days after we finish our business? Pig said carelessly. You can really take a break. Hawkeye nodded. After many days of sea voyage, he was also a little tired. He finally saw the land. Of course he wanted to take a rest. Afterwards, everyone looked at Di Luo, after all, he was the captain of the ship. Well, it's not a problem, I don't know where that person is now. We may stay in this country for a long time, and our food supplies should also be replenished. Sitting on the bow of the boat, Di Luo said, when the time comes, I will go find this person myself, and you can move freely. Captain, you want to go alone? Piggle was puzzled. Well, This time I'm looking for the navigator, not to fight. It's useless for you to follow. Instead of following me, it's better to move freely on your own. Di Luo said. Hey, that's fine, I just need some special parts for my construction, I can go to this country to look for it. Sophia also nodded, looked at Pig, and said, then I'll go with you, so I can buy some fresh ingredients along the way. Then, you can help me get some, you guys. The food intake is too large, and food consumption is not small these days. Quote. No problem. Pig patted his chest and said cheerfully. Captain Di Luo, then, what about me? Jie Wei, who was leading the way, said nervously. Di Luo glanced at him and said. Fool off. Thank you, Captain Di Luo, thank you, Captain Di Luo. Jie Wei thanked him a lot, and then quickly shrank back, waiting for the boat to stop, and he would immediately run away. Di Luo glanced at him lightly, not knowing what he was thinking, but just smiled. Then she turned her head and stopped looking at him. Boom boom boom. The huge warship Tianmen was sailing at lightning speed, and soon approached the island in front. Okay, this distance is almost the same. The Tianmen is too conspicuous, so it's not suitable to get too close. After approaching the island of Stanwell country for more than 10 miles, Di Luo stopped the sailing of the warship with his ability. I'm going, you can move freely on your own. What do you need to buy yourself? Good captain. Understood the captain. After telling Hawkeye and the others a few words, Di Luo jumped up and flew into the air, his figure flashed. Whoosh. With a bang, it disappeared immediately, and the speed was so fast that the other people were dumbfounded. Hey, the captain is the captain, the strength is really strong. Since the captain has already set off, let us go too. Piglet lowered a dinghy he had built from the battleship, and jumped aboard. This small boat has already installed the power system by him, so it can sail freely. He doesn't have the ability to fly across the sky like Di Luo, so he can only get close by in a small boat. After Pig jumped into the boat, he waved to Hawkeye and Sophia. Then, Sophia and Hawkeye boarded the boat. The Empress said that she didn't want to go anywhere, so she decided to stay and guard the house. As for Jie Wei, no need for others to say, he just jumped into the sea by himself and prepared to swim there. He is not capable, nor is he afraid of the sea. As for the injuries on his body, those who have not recovered are almost the same. He is confident that he can swim across. As for Piggy giving him a ride, he dared not even think about it. Wow! Di Luo flew all the way in the sky, and soon came to the minister on this island. Swish, swish. Immediately afterwards, he flew all the way to the sky, until he flew to an altitude of several thousand meters, and then looked down from the sky. Can be seen. This island is actually not that big. And the so-called Stanwell country is also composed of a magnificent main city in the middle of the island, and more than a dozen small towns around it. It is not much bigger than the Queen's Daughter country, and it is also a small country. There are patches of forest between the small towns. What Di Luo noticed was that there is a half-moon-shaped lake at the corner of the island. The topography and appearance of the entire island are captured by Di Luo. Remember the general terrain of the island, and the next action will be convenient. After. Wow! Di Luo jumped up, and dived directly towards the ground below, landing vertically. Bump. Not long. With a loud noise, Di Luo fell in a deserted forest. According to the direction in his memory, he walked straight towards a small town not far away. This is a very small town, and the people who come and go in the town are all ordinary people, there are no marines or pirates. On the contrary, the 3-meter-tall Di Luo, wearing a black coat with a long sword on his waist, looks a little different and has attracted many people's attention. However, in this backward town, no one knows Di Luo, an upstart at sea. At least Di Luo didn't meet anyone who knew him. Although, the seagulls that deliver newspapers will also deliver new newspapers with the latest information. However, most of the people in this town are illiterate, and they are not interested in the outside world. No one will pay special attention to the latest news of the world. So they don't know Di Luo. Most people look nervous after seeing Di Luo, and then leave in a hurry. Although they don't know Di Luo. But after all, Di Luo's attire is not ordinary, and he looks very difficult to mess with. Although there are few pirates on the island, it is not completely absent. Ordinary people, who are inherently sensitive to pirates, just walked around and didn't even dare to look at him more, for fear of getting into trouble. Di Luo didn't care about this, and he wasn't interested in these ordinary people either. After entering the town, he also went straight into a bar that looked a little rough. In this kind of place, it's best to get some information. Dingling bell. As the wind chimes rang at the door, Di Luo pushed the door open and entered. In the dimly lit small bar, a few people sat here and there, drinking cheap ale. When I saw someone coming in, I just glanced at them, and then continued to drink their wine with my head down. Emperor Di Luo walked all the way and sat on the high chair in front of the bar. Bump. He knocked on the bar table and said directly, "Boss, bring me a glass of spirits." Hold on. Behind the bar, the boss who was squatting under the bar doing something heard the sound, got up and poked his head out. You are not from a small town, who are you? This is a man with a bushy beard and a bare head. He looked at Di Luo with some vigilance and said. With this obvious attire, the identity of the person in front of him is ready to be revealed. Obviously, the person in front of him is probably a pirate. He doesn't like pirates. At the same time, he also cursed in his heart. What on earth are the port patrols doing? Why did they let such strange guys in? It seems that my tax has been paid for nothing. You need to pay less, these people do nothing with money. It's nothing, just treat us as ordinary drinkers. For the boss's thoughts, Di Luo pretended not to know. He raised his hand, and took care of hay and handed over a stack of Baileys. This was given to him by Sophia before leaving, and he gave back a lot, saying that it was convenient to do things when he was on the island. His way of giving gold to anyone he sees is a bit too conspicuous, and it is easy to cause trouble and attract people's eyes. Although Di Luo's strength is not afraid of these things at all, it's a shame to meet them. Di Luo also has a deep understanding of this. Toads don't bite people when they rub their feet, but they are disgusting. Therefore, he readily accepted the Bailey that Sophia gave him. After seeing this stack of Baileys, the boss was taken aback for a moment, and then his eyes lit up. Sure enough, money is the real thing, and everything else can be sidelined. After seeing Di Luo's big money, the bar owner couldn't bear it any longer. There must be thousands or even tens of thousands of Baileys in such a big stack, right? This is his turnover for several days. After earning this amount, he is one step closer to his dream. Hey. So, a warm smile filled his face instantly, and he reached out to take Bailey. He flattered Di Luo and said, "My guest, do you have any other requests? How about a side dish? I recommend our special snacks, the Taste and Taster First Class." Well, let's look at it. Di Luo said, he has no idea about money, this kind of thing, for him who can manipulate metal, he can have as much as he wants. Okay. The bar owner said quickly, and then shouted at the kitchen, "Big fat, 3 special delicious snacks. Guest, please wait a moment, the snacks will come soon, I will make you a glass of wine first." As he spoke, he began to immerse himself in the bartending. In fact, his so-called wine mixing is to use a large bowl to mix several wines of different colors, and then stir them with an iron spoon. This method of mixing pig feet is far worse than Sophia's pleasing wine mixing method. Please use. Soon, the bar owner mixed the wine, poured it into a large glass, and handed it to Di Luo. Di Luo took the wine, took a sip, and then frowned slightly. The taste is really not satisfactory. There are all kinds of flavors in the mouth, and Di Luo even felt a bit of at. Now, he has some doubts about whether the boss can mix wine, and what raw materials did he use. Soon, the back chef thought that the big fat chef was serving Mei Yu. A bowl of dry mixed noodles. A grilled fish. There is also a plate of cold dishes. This is the so-called specialty snack, and its value will never exceed 1,000 Baileys. Di Luo shook his head, and still took a bite. It wasn't delicious, and it wasn't unpalatable. The taste could only be said to be barely edible. While eating, Di Luo asked seemingly casually, "Boss, I want to know if there are any pirates in this town." The person he was looking for had gone to sea before, and Di Luo could only start from this aspect. Pirates. The bar owner had a bad feeling when he heard it. He looked at Di Luo. Di Luo's expression was flat, he ate the food on the plate bit by bit, and asked casually. Seeing that Di Luo didn't seem to move, he breathed a sigh of relief. Why are you asking this? The boss swallowed and said. He can see that Di Luo is not easy to mess with. Although he is just a dilapidated bar owner, he has also left this country before to go out for a living, although he did not make a name for himself. However, there is still knowledge and wink. People like Di Luo are the kind of people who are not easy to mess with. It's nothing, just ask casually. Shi Luo laughed. The barkeeper thought for a while, and finally said. If you mean pirates. There is a strange old man named Tucson in the easternmost part of the town, and this old man runs a blacksmith shop. I heard that he has been to sea before, seems to be a pirate. He is not a local, he came to this island 20 years ago, and later settled here and opened a blacksmith shop. I heard people say that he was a pirate before he came to this island. Oh, by the way, he also adopted a granddaughter. It is said that a few years ago, she also went out to sea to follow pirates and worked as a navigator, but then something happened and she came back. Quote. I've heard of this too. Leading the table, an old man with wine lees, who held a wine glass in his hand, and said, it seems that there was an accident on that girl's pirate ship, and everyone on board died. That's right, the old man's blacksmithing skills are incredible, and the quality is so cheap that many people from other towns don't hesitate to travel all the way to buy it. In the bar, other people also chattered and started talking. Through their conversation, Di Luo really learned a lot of useful information. Di Luo's expression changed. Did he find out? He himself didn't expect it to be so easy. And also worked as a navigator, and he is close to 10. After dinner, Di Luo got up and left the bar. According to what the bar owner said, he found the blacksmith shop all the way. This is a small yard composed of several very simple huts located in the corner of the town. Di Luo walked all the way and went directly into the yard. Choose what you want: sickle, kitchen knife 100 Baileys, hatchet, axe, hoe 200 Baileys, sharpening knife, repairing knife 30 Baileys, put it aside first. Just come and pick it up later. 11. In a thatched hut, a strong old man was striking the iron with bang bang bang. Without raising his head. He was used to this kind of thing a long time ago. Di Luo took a look at the thatched hut, except that it was simple and crude. However, in Di Luo's view, this is also a kind of artistic conception. And in one of the thatched huts, the old man didn't lift his head, and was constantly beating the iron body in his hand. His dry face remained unchanged, as if nothing could impress him. There are only iron bodies left in his world. Di Luo looked at the farm implements hanging all over the wall, which were many times better than the common iron implements he saw on the market. Obviously, these are precision forged. It can be seen that the people who forged these tools worked very hard. A look of surprise appeared on Di Luo's face. Because among these farm tools, he saw a shining dagger. This dagger is silvery white. As a magnetic manipulation, second stage awakened man, he is very sensitive to metals. Although the precision forging of this dagger is not as good as his continuously compressed steel giants, it is still quite good. This is definitely not something that can be forged by ordinary forging skills. Master, you forged this dagger. Di Luo picked up the dagger casually, sinking slightly in his hand. The edge of the dagger was exceptionally sharp. Besides me, there seems to be no second blacksmith here. The old man said lightly. From his tone, Di Luo heard a little arrogance. Afterwards, the old man raised his head to look at Di Luo, and his heart was startled with just one glance. His intuition told him that the man in front of him was extraordinary. Suddenly, his pupils shrank slightly, and behind him, there was a newspaper on an iron shelf. When he looked at Di Luo again, his eyes changed. This person in front of me, why did he suddenly appear in this small country, such a remote town? What is his purpose in coming here? The old man Tucson stared at Di Luo, his eyes flickering constantly, and he was a little uncertain. However, he quickly thought of a certain possibility. Then, even the way he looked at Di Luo became vigilant, and the hammer in his hand tightened unconsciously. The forging method is good. Di Luo, on the other hand, didn't care about the old man, but just looked at the farm tools he made. Occasionally, I would pick up a piece of paper to weigh. If he used his ability, it would not be difficult to create such a thing, but it still required a certain amount of skill to forge it by hand. For technical staff, Di Luo actually appreciates it. Besides, to be honest, the forging techniques of these agricultural tools are indeed very good. It can also be said to be first class, and it is definitely not comparable to the mass-produced farm tools outside. If this old man is willing to forge a knife, he will be able to forge a good sharp knife. What is your purpose for coming here? In the end, the old man confronted Di Luo with this question. Oh. Di Luo looked at him and smiled. Did you recognize me? As for his name, he didn't deliberately conceal it. When someone recognized him, he would admit it openly. Tucson didn't answer Di Luo's words, but looked at him and said, Di Luo. Tell me your real purpose. It's impossible for a person like you to come here for no reason. There seems to be nothing in this country that can make you something you noticed. Crack. Di Luo put down a farm tool hatchet in his hand, looked at Tucson, and said calmly, You're right, I'm not here for fun. To be clear, I need a navigator. What? The old man shrank his pupils, looked at Di Luo, and said, Your goal is Lulu. Sure enough, this guy came for his little granddaughter. Her name is Lulu. Di Luo smiled, nodded and said, In this case, old man, can you introduce me? I am really looking for a navigator. You have been to sea before, and you should know that an excellent navigator is very important for a ship. How important it is for a ship. Hey, it's not that I didn't tell you, it's just a pity that you came late. The old man shook his head and said calmly, and then put the iron body in his hand back into the stove. What do you mean? Di Luo looked at him. While fiddling with his stove, Tucson said, Lulu went to the city of Barbitos 2 days ago. Barbitos City. Di Luo was puzzled. The old man said, It's the capital of this country, so, I'm sorry, you came in vain. For nothing. Di Luo laughed and said, I don't want to say anything for nothing unless I die. Don't say she went to the city of Barbitos, even if she went to Marineford, I want to get her. Also, my patience is quite limited, you can state your conditions, and you can negotiate, but I don't want to be rejected, or I don't want to be fooled. I don't care what purpose you have on this island, my purpose is very simple, which is a natural navigator. You. Tucson was stunned, the degree of persistence of the guy in front of him really exceeded his expectations. To be tough, he dare not. Who is the other party? That is the Emperor of the Sea that Sengoku has to admit to the whole world. But this courage is not something he can threaten. Tucson held the hammer and looked at Di Luo in the yard. You need a navigator, not necessarily Lulu. Let me tell you the truth, she went to sea a few years ago, but was stimulated. Yi will never go to sea again, or she has inner demons and fear of the sea. Since you can find this place, it means that you know these things. With her in this situation, even if you take her out by force to sail for your solo navigator, there may be huge mistakes. A character like you, what kind of navigator can't find it? In the future, we will definitely find even better navigators. If you just want someone to show you the way, maybe go by a slave. The old man stared at Di Luo and said so. Slaves know how to navigate? Di Luo asked with a calm smile. Tucson stared at Di Luo, nodded constantly, and said. That's right, there are indeed slaves with this ability, and the ability is quite good. Some guys even used to be navigators on this sea, but they were captured later, then resold, and became slaves. Di Luo didn't say it clearly, but looked at Tucson and said with a smile, Do you believe in slaves? The old man shook his head and said. In most cases, these slaves are fine, after all he will be on the same boat as you, isn't he? Unless the slaves don't want to live anymore and want to pull you into the water too. Otherwise, it's fine if you just give directions. In fact, slaves are also afraid of death. With your ability, you can completely restrain them. However, you can't rely too much on it. After all, you are just a slave. In the future, you can look for better navigators. The old man said half-truthfully. Hee. Di Luo smiled. He doesn't agree with Tucson's words, he has his own ideas. He felt that, on the sea, sailing Poseidon is the existence that controls the lives of everyone on board. Its importance cannot be overstated. And letting slaves be navigators is especially ridiculous in Di Luo's view. No one puts their life in the hands of someone they can't fully trust. Who dares to take his own life as a joke? Although Di Luo is not afraid, getting lost at sea can be quite annoying. In fact, this is not just Di Luo's opinion. Many people who go to sea will not trust a slave navigator. Isn't this a joke? So the market for navigator slaves is actually not very good, and the price will not be much higher than that of ordinary slaves. After all, very few people would trust such people and let them lead the way. I have a friend who works in this industry. Do you need me to introduce you? The old man continued, staring at Di Luo. It seems that you are determined and don't plan to tell me where that girl is. Di Luo spoke. His voice was not high, but it was full of danger, as if he would strike if he was not careful. The old man was taken aback, and he also felt the change in Di Luo's aura. This kind of person doesn't know how to reason. However, in order not to hurt his little granddaughter, he still bite the bullet and said, Lulu went to the capital, and she will not go to sea, and I will not let her go to sea again. Really? Di Luo looked at him. Between the two, the atmosphere became inexplicably tense. Old Tucson. At this moment, a middle-aged man with a fishing rod and a fishing basket in his hand ran over quickly from a distance, and shouted loudly at the same time. The old man named Tucson took a look at Di Luo, then walked out of the hut with a hammer in hand, looked at the people who came running in a hurry, and said, Oh, it's JBU, don't you see that I'm busy? What are you doing in a hurry? Didn't you promise that the tool you want can be finished tomorrow? In the distance, running all the way, a man named JBU said angrily. You still have the mind to think about tools, your little Lulu, something happened. What? Tucson was startled, and the hammer in his hand fell to the ground with a bang. He grabbed JBU and said, Quickly tell me, what's going on? What happened to Lulu? Little Lulu, who was picking mushrooms in West Blue, was captured by a group of pirate slave traders. Aren't you kidding me? Tucson said tremblingly. JBU said, How could I make fun of little Lulu's safety? I saw it with my own eyes. What? Tucson grabbed Gebu's collar and said, I paid taxes, Lulu is a legal resident, how could they do it? What about the patrol team? What is the patrol team for? Why did they make a move? Scatter. JBU shook off Tucson's hand, and said angrily, You old man, why did you let little Lulu go to the wilderness? Don't you know that with the death of Whitebeard, a large number of pirates have completely lost their scruples and rushed to the wilderness? Going to sea to do evil. 0. Without the suppression of the tiger, all the wild dogs became restless. In our small town, young people have been missing for several days in a row, do you know? Recently, there has been a disaster of pirates here in our place. They burned, killed and looted everywhere. Do you count on the patrols in the town? They can hardly protect themselves. I heard that the mayor is going to go to the king's trouble. How is this possible? Tucson was so anxious that he couldn't even speak clearly. Papa. He kept patting his thighs, and said anxiously, How did I know this would happen? In the morning, she said that she was going to pick mushrooms in the forest, and I agreed without thinking much. Quote. You old fool. Thanks to you, you went to sea before. JBU was also in a hurry, pointing to Tucson and said, Little Lulu is still young and ignorant, don't you understand? In this kind of troubled time, a young girl like little Lulu can't run around. How dare you let her go out into the wilderness forest? Little Lulu is a treasure. He was captured by slave traders, and there is absolutely no good fruit to eat. Quote. What to do? I'll ask the mayor. Tucson said anxiously. Old Tucson, the mayor is about to run away now, will he send troops to encircle and suppress pirates for you, let alone? Even if he is willing, by the time he gathers all his troops, those guys will have already taken Lulu away. I saw them arrest a lot of people, and little Lulu, and go to the coast, maybe they will run away by boat. Once out of the sea, you will never even try to find Lulu back in your life, or you will be sold as a slave. You should quickly find a way to save her. Okay, I have done what I should do, I want go home. Quote. With that said, the man turned and ran away. Gebu. Old Tucson shouted anxiously, but the man had already run away, and he didn't want to get involved in such a thing. It would be interesting enough to make a trip to tell old Tucson. What should I do? Tucson finally got anxious. Di Luo turned his head and looked into the distance with a slightly cold expression. You dare to move the person I like. After finishing speaking, he turned around. With a sound of "Sue," the figure disappeared directly in place. Only Tucson stood there with his mouth wide open, at a loss. Knife. Crash. A bay, the mouth of the coast where raging waves beat. A pirate ship that is not too big, but very well made, is leaning against the shore. On the ship, a long ladder is lowered and fixed at the coast. The pirate flag on the ship is a pattern of a sharp knife piercing through a skull. At this moment, many pirates are coming out from distant islands, and they are landing on this pirate ship one after another. These pirates who came down from the island look vicious, and they are all very strong. They don't have knives and carry guns. Many pirates were carrying sacks, and in the sacks, there were things moving around, which seemed to be living things. Big harvest. Big harvest. Oh ho ho, this time, we received good goods again. That's right, the goods caught this time are enough for us to make a fortune. Brothers on board, let the captain come out and take a look, we have caught 2 more high-quality goods. Haha, what are the top grades? Just now, our team encountered a patrol team. However, those wine bags and rice bags couldn't hold on for 10 minutes, so they were killed by us. What a joy. A big man with a knife in his hand, the edge of which was still stained with blood laughed, as if he didn't kill a person just now, but a group of chickens. It's so cool not to be suppressed by that guy Whitebeard. Another pirate said excitedly. Who says it's not? Next, we can act unscrupulously again. Ha ha ha, refreshing, this is what we pirates should do. A group of pirates shouted excitedly. Pirates like them who plunder along the way are not afraid of being hunted down at all, as long as Marine doesn't send out Vice Admiral level powerhouses. They are not afraid. In case they encounter a master of the Vice Admiral level, they can escape by relying on the excellent pirate ship that the captain spent a lot of money to build, and its performance far exceeds that of the Marine warship. Therefore, they are not afraid at all. In the past, this was Whitebeard's territory, and they did not dare to burn, kill and loot openly. In their eyes, Whitebeard is far more dangerous than Marine. But now that Whitebeard is dead, they've acted without hesitation. Before, with the Whitebeard deterrent, they dared not go too far. Now, with Whitebeard dead, they have no scruples. Unscrupulous looting is possible. Hey, this time we can make a lot of money. On the boat, a crew member standing on the deck carrying a big knife, looked at the pirates who kept returning, and said with a smile to his companions. Beside him, a one-eyed pirate with a musket also smiled happily and said, "That's right, this batch of goods are all on time, especially the girl that the Jints team caught in the forest not long ago, she is quite top quality, and can definitely sell for a good price." Hey, big brother, I saw that girl before, she is indeed top-notch, her face and body are impeccable. Said, let us brothers also play in the sales meeting. The one-eyed pirate is wretched Impossible, this kind of extreme product, the complete price is better than the incomplete one. Said the pirate with a big knife carelessly. That would be a pity. Hey, there are defective products on our boat, just pull them out and play. I'm not interested in those defective products now, it's a waste of my energy. The one-eyed pirate shook his head, thinking of that superb woman, he was a little restless. So, his one-eyed eyeball rolled, thinking in his heart, how about going to play at night when everyone is not paying attention? In this guy's heart, he began to calculate. And below decks. In a dark cabin like a prison cell, there was an unpleasant stench, and a dozen people were imprisoned in it. Look carefully, these people are all women. They curled up in a corner, trembling all over, terrified. They were all captured by these pirates along the way, and in the future, they will all be treated as slaves and playthings and sent to the market for auction. It is conceivable that their future days will be spent in extreme darkness. It's not that they haven't thought about resisting. However, when they saw with their own eyes a woman who was yelling and calling for help was dragged out by these pirates to humiliate her on the spot and then beat her to death on the spot, they no longer dared to shout. At this moment, they could only shrink in the corner and shiver. At the same time, they longed in their hearts for someone to save them, but they knew very well that the possibility of this was extremely slim. Among them, one was imprisoned not long ago. Wearing blue skinny jeans, white sandals, and a blue t-shirt on the upper body, the woman is out of place with other people, and is extraordinarily unusual. She didn't have the hopeless empty eyes of other women. This woman, with a height of 1.8 meters, looks very tall standing there, with thick long golden hair hanging down her slender waist, which is particularly dazzling. If you look closely, you can see that she has a beautiful appearance, her eyes like autumn water are particularly agile, and the small rose-colored mouth under her tall nose is slightly opened, like a coquettish rose. In terms of Shanlan's appearance, she is by no means inferior to the Empress. Perhaps, she is just not as famous as the Empress. She grabbed the iron bars of the prison and looked around vigilantly, as if looking for an opportunity. Bump. At this moment, not far away, sitting at the hatch of the ship, a woman wearing a long floral dress, with a bloated figure, who looked to be in her 40s, with a ferocious face, walked over with a mace in her hand. She hit the iron bars of the prison with a stick, making a loud noise. Ah! The woman was startled back. At the same time, the woman with the mace yelled at her, "Get the hell out of here and stay here. You dog, it makes me sick just looking at it. If you want to escape, hey, the stick in my hand, don't show mercy. Besides, you disgusting guy, there are people on board who want to play with you, why don't you try to escape? I'm really looking forward to seeing you killed by them." The fat woman said viciously. The face of the woman locked inside changed slightly, she knew that these pirates could do these things completely. In desperation, she could only back away. At this moment, the woman's face turned pale. She knew what would happen to her if she was taken away and left here. If she is auctioned off as a slave, then her life will be worse than death. No, you must not be auctioned off as a slave, you must find a way to escape. This is her only belief. However, she has no special ability, and her combat ability is not enough. It is too difficult to escape from prison. This feeling of powerlessness again, this feeling, is really annoying. Quote exclamation mark quote. At this moment, the entire pirate ship shook slightly. What happened? The woman with the mace said, then turned around and stared at the prison. Little fools, stay here honestly, whoever is dishonest, will become a vent for those guys on the boat, be played to death. With a sneer, she turned and left the prison, closed the door of the cabin with a bang, and closed it. In an instant, the entire cabin became dark. Who are you, dare to break into our knife pirates, wanting to die? At this moment, everyone on the pirate ship looked at the man who suddenly fell from the sky. Among them, a pirate held a knife and angrily yelled at this person. I ask you a question. This man who fell from the sky was naturally Di Luo, who was chasing him all the way. He looked at these people and said, "Bah, what kind of thing are you? Are you qualified to tell us what to do on our ship? Are you looking for death? The price for asking us questions is very high. That's right, cut off your own arm, and we'll answer your question." Hey, the brat jumping out there, I think it's just a mess. That's right, you didn't even inquire about it, but we, the name of the sharp pirates, dare to board the ship to find trouble. A group of pirates yelled at Di Luo, and some even wanted to do something to Di Luo. Di Luo glanced at them, and said indifferently. A group of people who are not popular, although I don't know where your self-confidence comes from, but as a reward for your arrogance, let you experience what life is like death. Since you don't want to answer my question, I'll use my method to ask. After finishing speaking, Di Luo raised his hand. Ka ka ka. The next moment, a large amount of metal material began to beat on the ship. Swords, muskets, and iron chains all began to dance. Soon, all their swords and weapons came out of their hands without obeying their orders. What's the situation? What's going on here? Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, crisp gunshots echoed on the ship, and then there were swords rushing back and forth. Ah, ah. The pitiful screams of the pirates came continuously. Among them, a tall man grabbed a fitness roller in his hand and patted Di Luo directly. Boom. Di Luo just raised his hand and smashed the stone to pieces. Crack. Then, Di Luo's figure flashed and appeared in front of the man in an instant, raising his hand and easily grabbed the man's head. Then Sheng Sheng lifted him up to 3.5, a man over 2 meters tall, in front of Di Luo, who was 3 meters tall, was just like a little chicken. Let me go, you let me go. The man grabbed Di Luo's hand tightly, trying to break his hand away. However, Di Luo's hands, like pliers, firmly grasped his face. Crack. The next moment, his head was crushed by Di Luo. Blood spilled all over the place, splashed everywhere. Touch. Di Luo raised his hand and threw his body out. At this moment, screams are everywhere on the entire deck, and blood is flowing all over the ground. My friend, you seem to have crossed the line. A voice sounded in the distance. Di Luo turned around and looked. It was a tall, thin man with a pale face, wearing a white suit, white leather shoes, and a white top hat. He looked as if he was terminally ill, and his whole person was full of a serious sickness. At this moment, he was staring at Di Luo with a bad expression on his face. Captain! 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 Seeing this person's appearance, the people on the boat seemed to have some backbone, and immediately surrounded him. Oh, it looks like you are the captain of this ship. Well, let me ask you a few questions. Di Luo shook the bloodline on his hand and said with a smile. The man stared at Di Luo closely, with bad eyes. And Di Luo just glanced at him indifferently. This man only has one chance to speak. If you are not satisfied, then go find it yourself. As for them, feeding the fish is probably the best way back. Suddenly, he stared into Di Luo's eyes with a frightened expression. He looked at Di Luo in a daze, and then said tremblingly, You are. Captain, this nasty guy killed Ozzy and the others. Captain, kill this guy. That's right, kill him. Captain, let him know how powerful our knife pirates are. Chop him up and feed the fish. The pirates surrounding the man kept shouting. It seems that this man gave them great courage. Oh. Di Luo grinned and said, it's really a bunch of lifeless things. As he said, he moved the hand holding Tiong slightly. Wow. Around, a large amount of metal began to stir. It seems that you still need to do it yourself. What are you talking about? Do you know who is in front of you? Yes, this is our captain, the man known as Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper. Di Luo was startled. The name. Why, are you afraid? HMPH, are you too frightened to move when you know our captain's name? It's too late to kneel down and beg for mercy. Hey, even if he kneels down and begs for mercy, I don't want to let him go. A group of noisy things. 03. Just when Di Luo wanted to manipulate these metals and wipe out all these lifeless pirates. You all shut up. Suddenly, the man who looked a little sick, Jack the Ripper, yelled loudly. Captain, what are you doing? He killed our brother, he must be killed. The surroundings quickly quieted down. These pirates were a little puzzled and didn't understand, when did the captain become so talkative? If this had happened before, that guy would have been dismembered by the captain long ago. They still know their own captain's strength and personality very well. Known as Jack the Ripper, he is still very famous at sea. Pirates who are well known in the sea from all walks of life will face their captains when they meet their own captains. This guy who has never seen before, dares to offend like this, isn't that courting death? The captain didn't do anything until now, which surprised them in the first place. Snapped. The so-called Jack the Ripper slapped an unconvinced crew member beside him with a backhand slap. Captain, if you don't want to die, shut up. After saying this, Jack the Ripper walked over quickly. Di Luo just looked at him indifferently. Once this guy made any move, he would kill him instantly. Bump. However, even Di Luo didn't think of it. When he came to Di Luo, he knelt down without hesitation. Please forgive me for the offense of these subordinates, they don't know that you are here. He lowered his head, kowtowed to Di Luo directly. Oh. Di Luo looked at him with great interest, this man seemed to be interesting. Boat, Captain. A crew member was full of surprise and disbelief. Why do you kneel to him? You noble man, shouted another crew member. Please stand up, no matter who he is, we are willing to fight him to the death. Yes, please stand up. Pirates don't understand. Wrong. Among them, an older pirate, looking at Di Luo, seemed to think of something, and said. Yes. He suddenly remembered, in the captain's office, he had accidentally seen a newspaper and a wanted warrant. At that time, he didn't pay much attention to it, turned around, and even forgot about it. Now think of the content of that newspaper, and the portrait on that wanted warrant. After careful comparison, soon, their appearances overlapped. This The old pirate was surprised. Then, he raised his finger to Di Luo, and said with a terrified expression. He is Di Luo. Di Luo. A pirate was puzzled and asked, who is it? In fact, not all pirates are well aware of current affairs and news in this world. Just like the bottom pirates like them. At that time, they did not watch the live broadcast that shocked the whole world, and they also heard about the battle from others. Moreover, it has not been too long since he bit the emperor. Among them, the specific things have not been fully spread, except for a small number of people. Most people are still kept in the dark. Based on their current knowledge, they only know that in the top battle, Whitebeard died in the battle, and there is no master in this sea. These pirates are also completely free, and they can do whatever they want in the future. B. They didn't know that although Whitebeard died, there was a new sea emperor, Di Luo, who took Whitebeard's place. And it was announced by Sengoku himself. The news didn't quite get around. Jack the Ripper certainly knew, but he didn't announce it publicly. In fact, this is what Jack the Ripper deliberately didn't tell them. In this way, when they acted, they became even more unscrupulous, and they could do things for him without any scruples. In the eyes of these little pirates, now, there is no master over this sea, and they are not afraid of doing anything. So take action and work harder. This is also his purpose. If these little pirates know that a new emperor of the sea has appeared in this area, their actions will definitely not be as presumptuous and bold as they are now. That's right, the new sea emperor. The old pirate stammered. The new emperor of the sea. A pirate asked in surprise, when did this happen? The old pirate took a deep breath and said, just after the top. He glanced at the captain and said, after Whitebeard's death, Sengoku announced it on the spot. This news has not been announced yet, and I only found out about it by chance not long ago. The new emperor of the sea. Then, isn't he the man who took Whitebeard's place? These pirates are a little scared. It is definitely not an ordinary person to have such a name. Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, Redhead, these people who have the title of 4 emperors, which one is weaker? They are all masters of one side. Although Whitebeard is dead now, as long as he is a pirate, no one dares to underestimate the strongest man in the world. Now, the person who replaced him is standing in front of him. All the pirates froze in place, not daring to act rashly. As pirates, they are well aware of the gold content of the word emperor. Lord Di Luo, please forgive our offense. The old pirate knelt down first. Old grass. The other pirates looked at each other. Bang bang. Bang bang. Bang bang. Then, they all knelt on the deck one after another, facing the person with the title of Emperor of the Sea. They had to succumb. Fighting to the death, and knowing that you are dead, but still sending it off, those are two different things. What are you doing? Among them, a man who looked young, wearing a gray vest and missing front teeth said. Everyone. What's wrong with everyone? How can we surrender without a fight, even if he is the 4 emperors? Brush. At this moment, Jack the Ripper, who was kneeling on the ground, turned his head and glanced at him. The cold look in his eyes made the man feel cold all over his body instantly. His body trembled. Plop. He knelt down and didn't dare to speak again. At this moment, Jack the Ripper, who was kneeling on the ground, lowered his head and spoke again. Dear Captain Di Luo, if you have anything you want to know, you should know it and say it. Yeah, you're smart. I've always been friendly to people who are smart. Since you don't seek death, then you don't have to die. Di Luo looked at the respectful man kneeling in front of him, and smiled lightly. Yes. Jack the Ripper nodded repeatedly. Crack. Di Luo sat directly on the chair in front of Jack the Ripper, crossed his legs, and said. Let me ask you, before you caught a woman on this island, right? Jack the Ripper trembled, and said, we have arrested several women on this island. I don't know which one you are talking about. If the villain offends your people, I am willing to accept your punishment. As he spoke, he buried his body lower, showing absolute obedience. Di Luo waved his hand and said, not yet. In fact, I haven't seen her before. How about this? Bring out all the people you caught on this island. Let me have a look, and talk about it after I have seen her. Yes, Master Di Luo. Jack the Ripper said respectfully. Then he straightened up, turned around and said to the old pirate Lao Mo, Old Mo, hurry up and bring out all the people our brothers caught on this island before, and let Di Luo my lord, take a look, we may have offended your lord. Lao Mo looked up at the captain, nodded and said, yes, captain. With that said, he got up and walked directly towards the cabin. This guy. Di Luo looked at Jack the Ripper, this guy is definitely a dangerous guy. However, Di Luo didn't care, how could the ants plot do anything to the dragon? He has absolute confidence in himself. Hurry up. Soon, 7 women were brought up from the cabin one after another. They were all wearing handcuffs and shackles. Di Luo glanced at the 7 women, all of them were sick. 3 of them looked over 30 years old with haggard faces, and 2 of them looked only 11 or 12 years old, dirty and trembling with fright. There are 2 more, not too big, about 18 or 20. Di Luo glanced at these women. They were all trembling, standing there terrified, not even daring to lift their heads, huddled together one by one. None of these people has a unique bearing, and at a glance, they are ordinary except ordinary. Di Luo believes that it is absolutely impossible for a person who is born with a certain powerful talent to look like these people without bright spots. People who are rewarded by God for food generally have a certain kind of unique bearing. Soon, he was sure that there was no one he wanted from me. Could it be that this guy dares to lie to himself? Di Luo frowned, looked at Jack the Ripper who was kneeling in front of him, and said lightly. Is this all you plundered on this island? You have to think about it before answering me. Every word you say may bring you disaster. On Jack the Ripper's pale face, cold sweat dripped down, old Mo, playing tricks. He wanted to kill himself but failed. He turned his head and looked at Lao Mo. Master Di Luo. Jack the Ripper hadn't spoken yet. The old pirate Mo in the distance hurriedly said. Master Di Luo made atonement, it was the negligence of the villain. These people were locked up in Exakang after we snatched them. If there is not what you want here, there are also Nankang and Baikang. I can't tell where the people on this island are locked up. Just wait a moment, I will immediately bring all the people in the warehouse over, and let you take a closer look. Di Luo glanced at Lao Mo and said indifferently, go. Yes, yes. Lao Mo quickly turned around and continued to go down the cabin. Although Di Luo didn't say a single word to threaten him. But at that moment, he really felt the breath of death. Just now, he almost walked through the gate of hell, which made him terrified, sweating coldly, and he no longer dared to have the slightest thought. A few minutes later. Hurry up and throw it away. Soon, Lao Mo's voice sounded, and then another group of women were brought up by him. This lord wants to ask you something, you'd better explain it honestly, your fate may change because of it. Lao Mo said to these women, then knelt down to Di Luo, and said respectfully, my lord, these are all the people we captured, please have a look at them all. Di Luo glanced at the group of women. A woman in blue skinny jeans, a pair of white transparent sandals, and a blue t-shirt was among the group of people. Although she lowered her head and deliberately hid herself. Di Luo saw her with just one glance. She is what Di Luo expected, with a certain kind of unique bearing. Di Luo can feel her unusualness at a glance. Although, he used black ash to smear his face black, and her hair was also messed up by her. However, this kind of cover-up is useless in Di Luo's eyes. Even if she mixes with this group of women who are full of anxiety, she also tries her best to mix herself into it. However, she is still out of tune with other people, and she is extraordinarily unusual, standing out from the crowd. The other women all had ashes on their faces, they looked a little numb and frightened. After being driven up by Lao Mo, he couldn't help but tremble while standing there. But she is different, she does not have the hopeless, empty eyes of other women, and her smart eyes are even quietly looking around. Di Luo is basically sure that she is the person he is looking for. If not, she is absolutely extraordinary and must have some kind of unique ability. For this kind of person, Di Luo still appreciates it. So, just to be on the safe side, he still had to ask. Looking at this woman who is 1.8 meters tall, looks tall standing there, her hair is messed up by her, and her thick golden long hair hangs down her thin waist. After glancing at it, Di Luo looked away. He was sitting on a chair under the mast, holding Tiong's sword hilt in his hand, looking at these women. He opened the mouth and said, girls, first of all, Let me introduce myself. My name is Di Luo, it doesn't matter if you know it or not. His name will soon resound throughout the sea. I am here to find someone who is qualified to be my partner. And she is among you. Become my partner, and I will lead you to this sea, to appreciate the unique and interesting life. Of course, if you are willing to continue to be sold to those nobles as playthings like livestock, I will not say anything more. Quote. After saying this, Di Luo glanced at the group of people, seeing all their expressions. Most people just stood there unmoved, as if they couldn't understand Di Luo's words. Only a few people have responded. Among them, the blonde woman was included, but her reaction was only for a moment, and then she continued to blend into this group of people. Di Luo seemed to turn a blind eye, just smiled slightly, and then said, "You guys, who's Nana?" Quiet. Among the group of women, no one spoke. Di Luo sat there, always smiling, looking at them. My name is Nana. Soon, in the crowd, someone raised his hand. Oh. Di Luo looked into the crowd and glanced at her. The woman who raised her hand, she is not the blonde woman, but a girl who is only about 16 years old, has a baby face, is not tall, only 1.6 meters. Although not tall. However, her bust is exaggerated, quite large. This, visually at least has really amazing. Childlike big breasts. A few words jumped into Di Luo's mind, and this, perhaps, is the best description of this woman. At first, Di Luo didn't notice her. After all, she is not tall, hidden in the crowd, it is not easy to find. As she raised her hand to speak, the others hurried out of the way. Di Luo saw it clearly. She was wearing a black t-shirt, the t-shirt was stretched high, and the buttons of the light blue jacket on the outside couldn't be fastened at all. The lower body is a pair of black slacks, and a pair of lavender boots are worn under the feet. Looking at her now, she is also agile. She has short light red hair and healthy wheat-colored skin. Well, come here. Di Luo smiled slightly at her. Although she was a little scared, she still walked over boldly. This might be her only chance. When she walked in front of Di Luo, looking closely, this woman was truly extraordinary. At first glance, nothing can be seen, but the closer you look, the more beautiful she is, especially a pair of eyes, big and watery. Your name is Nana. Di Luo looked at her and asked. She looked up, glanced at Di Luo, quickly lowered her head, her hands were intertwined nervously, nodded, and said timidly, "My lord, my full name is Ser Demesia Nana." Very well, I ask you a question. Di Luo looked at her, pointed to the sky, and said, "Hun Nana, what do you think? What will the weather be like tomorrow?" Ah. The woman was a little surprised. She looked up at the sky, although the sky is very clear now, but what will be the weather tomorrow? She doesn't know at all. After a while, she took a deep breath, looked at Di Luo, and said, "My lord, although I don't know what the weather will be tomorrow, I know that there is a spiritual plant around here." Huh. Di Luo's expression changed, and he looked at her. Tell me. The woman nodded, closed her eyes, and thought for a while before continuing. The spiritual thing should be a tree full of spiritual energy. It is very unusual, and it definitely has some kind of powerful ability. In fact, she had this ability when she was very young, but no one believed her before. Even if she speaks out, people will laugh at her nonsense. After all, in the eyes of most people, spiritual plants are too ridiculous. People who don't know the goods, even if they put spiritual plants in front of their eyes, they don't know them. She was ridiculed a lot, and gradually, she stopped talking to others. Now, in order to survive, she had no choice but to speak again. What if, this lord is a knowledgeable person? Di Luo looked at her and asked again, where is the spirit you mentioned? Not more than 50 kilometers from here, at. The woman turned around and pointed in one direction. Over there, if you give me time, I will definitely lead you to find it. Di Luo was slightly taken aback. Good guy, this is really a surprise, Denuo Zhao. This woman actually has the ability to perceive spiritual things. This kind of talent, in a certain sense, is even stronger than combat talent, it is definitely the top. Using the principles of this world to explain, perhaps this is also her unique knowledge. And then to some degree. This kind of talent is rare. There is no need to verify what she said, because the direction she pointed is the direction where his Tianmen is staying. Di Luo looked at her with surprise in his eyes. With her, I can collect more spiritual plants in the future. These spiritual plants will definitely have a great effect. Perhaps, the submerged history will be recorded. It seems that in the future, I will also find someone who can interpret the text of history. Very good. Di Luo looked at her and said, I appreciate your ability. You are qualified to join my subordinate. From now on, you are my partner under my subordinate and under my protection. As she said that, Di Luo looked at her and asked, Now, let me ask you, are you willing to be my partner? Your partner C. The woman was a little surprised. That's right. Di Luo smiled lightly. Become my partner, give full play to your talents, and I will take you to see a wider world. Of course, you can also refuse. I will not force anyone to join my team, anyone. What I need is someone willing to follow me voluntarily, so that he will sincerely serve me. So, it is up to you to decide whether to follow me to see. Quote. Di Luo looked at her and said softly, Di Luo has never been stingy with treating people he values. Serdimi Janana was shaken in her heart. The man in front of me is different from others. There was an incomparable aura exuding from his body, an aura of incomparable confidence in himself. Moreover, the way he looks at himself is different from other men. There is no lewd look, no contempt, only appreciation. Such a man inexplicably made her yearn for it. But Sayer Demisha Nana raised her head, looked at Di Luo who was sitting there, who was much taller than herself, and said cautiously, My lord, apart from being able to perceive spiritual objects, I have no other abilities that I am good at, let alone the ability to fight. I, like this, am also qualified to follow you. Di Luo interrupted her and said, For me, this talent of yours is already 810 very good, it will be of great use to me, it is enough for you to have this ability. You don't need other abilities, fighting, I don't need you, on my ship, there are some fighting madmen. I said that if you have it, you are qualified to follow me, how about it? Tell me your choice, follow me or stay here. Quote. Di Luo looked at her and said, Answer me seriously, you only have one chance to choose. Without any hesitation. I would like to follow you. Sayer Demisha Nana said firmly. Before, she stayed on the boat and saw too many things that frightened her. Those women who were caught on board by these pirates just like her. They are often dragged out by pirates to have fun, and then thrown back like dead dogs. When she looked at the bruises and broken bodies of those women, and when they could only hide in the corner and cry, she was terrified. She was deeply afraid that she would be dragged out too. If so, for her, it would be better to be dead. In just a few days, she huddled in a corner and spent every day in despair and fear. Every time the cabin is opened, her heart beats violently. Looking at the women who were taken out one after another and never came back again, that kind of despair is simply not enough for ordinary people to bear. She thought about committing suicide, but she couldn't do it. In this way, she spent several days in despair. And in front of her eyes, this man who suddenly appeared, shining into her world like a ray of dawn. With such an opportunity in front of her, she would certainly seize it without hesitation. For her, no matter how bad it is, can it be so bad that it will fall into the hands of those pirates again, be humiliated all day long, and then be sold out to be played by others. Therefore, she is willing to take a gamble, or to put it another way, to trust her intuition once. Master Di Luo, is she the one you were looking for? At this time, Jack the Ripper who was lying on the ground said cautiously, Don't worry, we didn't do anything to her after we brought her aboard. Di Luo waved his hand and said, I can see this, so you can still live. Jack the Ripper breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, a big man greeted him before, and when he went out to sea, he grabbed a woman and left him such a complete woman joy. The big man offered a pretty high price. So, after catching her, he specifically ordered his men not to touch her. Otherwise, with the beauty of this woman, she has been spoiled for so many days. How many people under his command are staring at her? Do you still want to check? Jack the Ripper asked cautiously. In fact, the reason why he is so afraid of Di Luo is that he received a secret message through his own channel before. The man in front of him killed the celestial dragons, although he didn't completely kill them, ADBF, but he did cut off the heads of the celestial dragons. Afterwards, he escaped safely from the warships led by Akainu himself. It is said that when someone went to that sea area to check it out, the entire sea area was almost stained red with blood, and there were a lot of cooked marine life around, including sea kings and marine. Since the first time he got the news, Jack the Ripper broke out in a cold sweat. From then on, he vowed that when meeting people in the sea, he must show absolute obedience. Because, he knew that this ridiculously powerful man had absolutely no mercy at all. Anyone who dares to offend him will definitely not end well. Listen to Jack the Ripper's cautious questioning. Don't worry, wait and see. Di Luo said. Yes. Jack the Ripper said respectfully. Di Luo glanced at the group of women, and said again, can any of you tell me exactly and answer my question? What will the weather be like tomorrow? Whoever can answer my question, I will take her away. After a while, someone just wanted to speak boldly. But Di Luo said indifferently, if someone dares to lie to me with nonsense, that tomorrow's weather will not be right, then she will be worse off than staying in the hands of these pirates. I will sink her into the bottom of the sea with my own hands. Di Luo exported this sentence. At this moment, no one dared to escape with the idea of being deceived. The aura exuded by the man in front of him was far more terrifying than Jack the Ripper. Then, the crowd was completely silent. In the crowd, no one spoke anymore. After a while, swipe. Di Luo stood up, opened the mouth and said, it seems that I'm looking in the wrong direction, let alone, then I'll look elsewhere. Di Luo raised his hand and waved. Buzz. In the distance, a huge iron sword flew over and landed on the deck. Di Luo said to Sayer Demisha Nana, Nana, go, stand up, let's get out of here. Yes, my lord. Sel Demisha Nana nodded, walked over obediently, and stood on the iron sword carefully. Master Di Luo, then we. Jack the Ripper said carefully. Di Luo looked at him and waved his hands, since you didn't seek death, you can avoid death. What should you do? Yes, my lord. Jack the Ripper said quickly. He was overjoyed. It seems that this guy didn't mean to stop them from continuing to plunder, and he didn't mean to save these people, so he wouldn't lose too much, and he could completely accept. After finishing speaking, Di Luo took a step forward, and with a sound of, wow, his body rose into the air. Afterwards, he waved his hand, and on the deck, the giant sword slowly rose into the air, and Eser Demisha Nana squatted down cautiously, holding the iron sword. Help it up, let's go. Tiro said lightly. Wait a moment. Suddenly, in the crowd, a voice sounded. Di Luo smiled slightly, still, can't help it. Then, Di Luo looked back. Among the crowd, a person came out. It was the woman Di Luo saw before. She wiped the dust off her face, tidied her long hair, and restored her original beautiful appearance. She walked out from the crowd, looked at Di Luo standing on the ground, and said directly, let me answer you, tomorrow, it will rain. Oh. Di Luo glanced at her. Then he raised his head and glanced at the sky. The sky was blue at the moment, the sun was shining brightly in the sky, there was no cloud in the sky, and there was no sign of rain at all. You don't need to look, the sky will change within 2 hours, and it will start to rain at dusk, and this heavy rain will last for 3 full days. The woman said lightly. Well, is this fair? Are you confident that what you say can't be wrong? Di Luo asked. The woman looked at Di Luo with confidence in her eyes, and said, I can guarantee this, it will never be wrong. Very good. Di Luo nodded, looked at her, and said, what if it doesn't rain tomorrow? The woman said to Di Luo with a confident smile, if it doesn't rain, you can sink me into the sea. You are so strong, if I lie, with my meager strength, there will be no resistance room. Hee, that's true. Di Luo smiled and said, then I will have to wait and see. Then you have to be optimistic. The woman is obviously very confident in herself. I'm really confident, but I always appreciate people who are confident and capable. With that said, Di Luo landed on the ground again, looked at her, and continued. Since you are willing to stand up and answer my question, can I think that you are willing to join me? The woman stared at Di Luo, took a deep breath, and then said, it's not difficult for me to join you, you must promise me 3 conditions. Otherwise. Tell me. Di Luo directly interrupted her follow-up, sitting on the chair under the mast again and said directly. Then, he waved his hand, and the huge iron sword that went up fell down. Grown-ups. Nana came down from the top, just stood beside Di Luo quietly, without saying anything. Di Luo looked at her, smiled, and said, "You don't need to call me sir, just call me captain." "Well, captain." Di Luo nodded, looked at the woman, and motioned for her to continue talking. The woman looked at Di Luo, without being stage frightened, and said, "First, I want you to let that person let go of all the captured women on this boat. They are all innocent and unfortunate. Now that I have encountered them, I have no reason to stand idly by. Also, in the future, they can no longer come to this island to plunder." As she spoke, the woman glanced at Captain Jack behind her. Di Luo nodded and said, "It's not difficult, I believe that Captain Jack will give me this face." Not far away, Jack the Ripper stepped forward, bent down and respectfully said to Di Luo, "Master Di Luo, I'll do it right away. You guys, release everyone we caught along the way." "Yes, Captain. Yes, Captain." As he spoke, he directly greeted the crew and untied all the tied women. These women, one by one, suddenly became excited from the numbness before, and cast a grateful look at the woman. Although Di Luo sent the words, they all knew that this kindness came from that woman. The woman looked back at them. Afterwards, Captain Jack said to Di Luo again, "Master Di Luo, this villain is willing to swear with his life that he will never set foot in this country again." Di Luo nodded slightly, looked at the woman, and said, "Look, it's not difficult." The second one. The woman looked at Di Luo and continued. "Second, this country is my hometown. I grew up here, but this country is not stable. It has been invaded and plundered by pirates all year round. Just like it is now, I hope my hometown can be stable. So, my second request is that in the future, when you rule this sea area, include this country into your domain, and I hope you can protect this country from the attacks of pirates." "Well," Di Luo said directly, "it's no problem. If you join my subordinates, you will be my people, and I will naturally do my best to protect your hometown, which is one of my responsibilities." The woman nodded and said, "My last request is for you to wipe out the flower pirates." Speaking of which, there was hatred in her eyes. Di Luo turned his head, looked at Jack the Ripper, and said, "Do you know this pirate group?" Jack the Ripper said quickly, "My lord and my villain know." "Tell me." Jack the Ripper thought for a while, sorted out the language, and said, "Ryahuo Pirates is a large pirate group, well known in the sea area of New World, consisting of hundreds of pirates. And the captain of Flower Pirates is a guy named Losius, nicknamed Black Rhino. The Black Rhino Rossius himself is a person with abilities. Its abilities are Zone, Dragon Fruit, Ancient Species, Niulong Form. At present, it has been perfectly awakened and its combat effectiveness is very strong. In the past, Jack the Dro, one of the three major kanbans of the Kaido pirates, did not lose the wind. He even rejected Kaido's invitation before. Under him, there are 5 very powerful characters. The deputy captain, Belinlu, is a very strong swordsman. Its formidable strength is not even inferior to Rossius. Well, I see. Di Luo nodded. The guy with the same name as Jack the Dro really didn't interest him much. Although, for most pirates, this is an existence that is beyond reach, but for him, it is far from enough. Jack the Ripper paused, then said, "However, Master Di Luo, Losius has been in frequent contact with the Kaido pirates recently. I guess he may join Kaido's pirates." "Yeah." Di Luo just nodded. "How about joining the Kaido pirates? As long as he is targeted by Di Luo, even if he hides behind Kaido, he will be picked out and killed by him." Then, Di Luo looked at the woman and said, "It's not difficult for me to destroy this pirate group. Okay, I promise you." The woman's expression changed. Then, she said to Di Luo, "In this case, I, Kane Venina, am willing to accept your invitation and join your team. After you wipe out the flower pirates, I will give all my allegiance to you. Venina, you are welcome to join." Di Luo just smiled and didn't pay attention to her word games. After all, it's not too difficult for him to destroy this so-called flower pirates. Not to mention that he hasn't joined Kaido's pirate group. Even if he joins, it's the same, he should be hacked, or he will be hacked and killed by himself. Work. Thanks for watching.